Okay. So I'm sitting here. We're going to wait for a few people to get on. But my husband and I are watching the Sister Wives premiere episode that came on a couple of days ago. And just decided to watch it live. We've already watched it once, but we wanted to take notes. And there's just so much commentary that we have going through our heads that it's just better to do it live. So we are going to go ahead and just wait for a couple people to get on here. Right out of the gate, right in the opening credits, I did a post a couple of days ago about the F word. Mary says that there's, this, she goes, just be effing honest with me. That is like one of the worst things you can say to a polygamous man, because they're so egotistically driven that you just do not back talk to them, especially if you are a woman, right? And so I had never said the F word like once or twice in my entire life until my ex-husband one time, I said the F word and he just said, don't ever talk to me like that again, and got super aggressive with me. Well, Janelle pops off at Cody on here and tells him to effing stay. I'm going to turn the volume down so we don't get
disrespectful to their priesthood authority.
Yeah. It's like,
as a child, you get backhanded for that.
As a wife, you get ignored and yelled at. And depends on the husband, though. He'll try to backhand a wife. And that's unfortunately true. And then we're back to a scene of Robin crying on the land. Again, like what? We've seen that scene a million times of Robin crying on the land, going, I just wanted to sit with my sister wives on it. Then maybe you should have been nicer to those girls and not ran them off. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. She came in and claimed that she wants to be a good sister wife and hang out with these sister wives, but yet she monopolized all of his time, all of his energy, and there is some sort of negativity that she's always feeding in his ear.
Right.
And then on the opposite, in front of the cameras, you need to work it out with these wives.
Yeah.
But
so if you want to know who we are, we actually came from the AUB, which is the same polygamous community that the Browns came from. My dad is actually the current prophet of the AUB. So he's the one who would give these wives their divorces or their releases. And my husband was he was not born. He was raised in Montana on the Polygamous compound in Montana, which is the same compound that Robin was raised on. And they grew up down the street from each other.
That is correct.
And Robin's brother was his best friend. And then, so I was born and raised in the polygamous community. My husband was born and raised in the polygamous community. I was married once before and had 3 kids when we got married. So, and we decided to just start watching Sister Wives. Thought we'd maybe do lives because there's too much commentary that goes through our heads as we're watching it. And I'm like literally yelling at the TV like, are you people dumb? So I grew up with Christine and Mary, and we were friends growing up. I knew Cody. I never knew Robin. I never knew anything about Robin until the Sister Wives show came on. And then he had grown up with Robin, knew a little bit about Christine. So that's who we are. So when we watch this, we do have a little bit of a background in it because we were both born and raised in it. So we do have like a little bit of context of what some of the things are said. And this is just, I feel like, okay, Cody and Robin are on the land and they're talking about building on Coyote Pass again. This is the very beginning of the show. And I swear, they're saying the same thing that they keep saying on every episode, and it's just filler. I feel like they're just wasting time or putting filler content in. What do you think?
Yeah. My frustration is he does almost a weepy, this is my sacred covenant that I made to you, Robin. Well, he made that sacred covenant to the other 3 wives also. And yet he's not fulfilling that end. He could have told them at any time, yeah, I'm done, I'm out of here. He could have basically honored that sacred covenant to the other 3 wives, but he chose not to.
I know.
So it's only one wife that he's going to give that sacred covenant to.
I thought that was very funny part when he said that to her. I was like, what are you talking about? And she made him promise. And I am all here for this Mary. I have not seen this version of Mary before. I'm still friends with... I know. I'm still friends with Mary. I wouldn't say that we're by any means close friends. But this Mary I have never met before. And she's amazing. I love that she tells him to be effing honest with her. Because...
It's about time.
Yeah, it's like about time that she starts speaking up. That all of these women start speaking up for each other. For themselves. Because... And then she says she goes in to get a release. So she goes in to get a release. My dad's the one who gave her that release. Do you think Robin wanted to be the only wife all along? Absolutely. Absolutely. She gets on here and she says such a load of crap of, this is not how I wanted it to be. Then you wouldn't monopolize your husband's time.
Well, even when she was just
No,
a girlfriend.
I think...
Yeah.
I think she wanted to be a polygamous wife, but she was working for the lead polygamous wife and the head wife in there that controlled. And the minute that obviously became true, the other wives who had been working together and trying to make it a communal, and she never did live with any of them, so she's the wife next door. So we grew up in Pinesdale and we had a wife next door. So
yeah, I don't think she ever really wanted to be a plural wife. She wanted to be the head wife, and it's hard to watch. So we haven't watched a lot of the seasons because it's so frustrating when we watch it. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so then Robin gets up here and Cody's like, do you really think Mary would want to live on the land up here? You just need to keep trying, she says. What a load of crap. Why would he want to keep trying with Mary? He hasn't even tried in the last 10 years with Mary. And then I love this Janelle too, where she decides to leave him because he gave up on his relationship with his kids, with her kids. Mm-hmm. And she says, I've committed 100% of myself. Robin says, I've committed 100% of myself to this family. 100% of yourself to this family does not take an 11-day honeymoon. You don't take your father and a husband away from a family for 11 days. That's just insanity. That's not 100%. So, yeah, this episode is crazy. And Robin, why is Robin always having like anxiety attacks? I can't talk about selling the land right now. I can't talk about it. I don't even want to talk about and then he says, I can't talk about reconciliation anymore. It's like they just play the same scene out with these two. She feels like an idiot. I don't know. Yeah, somebody says, not to mention Christine had just had Truly when he left for 11 days. That's literally disgusting that he did that. I don't know of any other polygamous man who's taken an 11-day honeymoon. Shoot, we didn't even take an 11-day honeymoon. Well, we did, but we took my 3 children with us when we got married. Yeah, somebody says, I feel crazy watching Cody. The things he says are infuriating. Yeah, and especially when you're on the receiving end of that garbage. I've been on the receiving end of that garbage. So yeah, Janelle's saying when she decides to leave after she realizes the relationship with his children, that was the only thing holding her there. So my mom's currently in the process of leaving my dad for that same reason. There was really no reason for her to stay anymore when he's pulled back his relationship from his children. So I said at the very beginning of the video that my dad's the current prophet of the AUB, which is the Apostolic United Brethren, the same group that the Sister Wives came out of. And yeah, so we're watching. Go ahead.
No, we're just old, so we're having to read it.
He's excommunicated from his family. Jeez. Or you walked away from your family. Oh my gosh. And his relationship is infrequent. Okay, one of the things that I have to pause it right here. One of the things that Cody Brown said, one of the most infuriating things I think I've ever heard him say, is when he blamed his wives for the lack of relationship that he had with his children because they took away the environment in which he would have his relationship with his children. What?
And he's being butt wounded and a victim about that when he has every right to pick up, or every capability of picking up the phone and creating his own relationship with his kids. And he doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's not the mother's responsibility to make sure he has a good relationship. It's his own responsibility to constantly checking in, talking, meeting up with those kids. I also find it interesting that meeting up with those kids. I also find it interesting that that he's feeling in his kids. But if you watch throughout the seasons, it's usually the wives who are putting together these parties. They're creating an environment for those kids to come in and hang out with them.
Right.
And then Cody shows up. Hey guys, I'm here.
And then it all gets to revolve around him because this is how these polygamous men function, is the world revolves around them. And if it doesn't revolve around them, then they have FOMO.
And the relationship is still going on where they're creating the parties. He's just not invited now. And so, he's feeling really bad that he's not invited to parties. But what I've yet to see him and Robin throw a party I guess they do for Thanksgiving for stuff. But
and we haven't watched all the seasons.
I haven't.
So we don't know for sure.
I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah, we're just watching this first episode. But honestly, it's so unimpressive so far that Robin and Cody's participation in this episode is very unimpressive. We're only, of course, 10 minutes into it. But I love this part. So Mary, I just did a video on this the other day. Mary's like, just be effing honest with me. Oh, I love that. I love that part for her. And now they're going to do the baby sprinkle. I've never heard of a baby sprinkle. It might not be a Utah thing. I don't know. But yeah, a lot of people, so somebody says Robin didn't throw parties that I remember being filmed. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah. It's Robin it's Christine and Janelle and Mary that are putting together these amazing little get-togethers. They're creative. They create an environment. They create that nostalgia for the kids to come hang out, that safe place, that enjoyment of hanging out with each other, and
which is why they're the center of the family.
The core. Yeah.
Not because they're.
And if Cody wanted to be, he definitely should have been involved in that, but he wasn't. He wasn't the one helping create these things. He would set up lights and do stuff like that, which is good, but so.
Hey, thanks, Lizzie Tish, for sharing our live so many times. This is our first time ever going live. Pretty new at TikTok, so I'm still trying to figure it out. So thank you so much for Lizzie Tish for sharing our lives. I really appreciate it.
Sorry, I'm old. I need my new glasses.
Yeah, we're just trying to figure out this whole live thing and trying to figure out the TikTok thing. What's funny is we did watch this episode late last night. We have been in grandparent mode for 4 days, and we watched it last night, and my parents are actually in this episode. So they are at, they're at Cody and Mary's wedding, and they're in the background. And then this scene, Cody's yelling.
But this was...
I know, this is from last year. A stab in the kidneys, that was made for TV. Like, nobody talks like that in real life. Like, he totally stabs himself in the kidneys.
Cody does. And what I love is each one of the wives have made a little stab in the kidney remark back. And I laugh. I die every time. I'm like, oh.
So funny.
They have such a great sense of humor. So
Lizzie Tesh says, everyone tap your screens. The likes boost her algorithm. Oh, thank you. We don't know these things. We're still learning these things.
Oh, thanks, Lizzie.
Yeah, thank you, Lizzie.
Lizzie.
And then, okay, so here's another thing. It's going to be very common. They're at the baby shower now. It's very common for everyone to run into each other. I mean, there's just too many family events that you're going to be getting together at. There's just no way that you're not going to run into each other. And really, it just depends on how you want to handle it. I feel like it's no different I feel like the only difference is the fact that they're polygamous events. So there's hundreds of people there, where in monogamous events, there might only be a dozen people. But yeah, I find it interesting that Robin's kids are not here at the party. So that's a little bit interesting. And then, and good for Christine. She shouldn't have to be nice if she doesn't want to be nice. I don't think she would be rude. I knew Christine personally growing up, and she's not a mean person or a vindictive person. But I can definitely see there's Robin peeking in the door. What in the heck is she doing? So Robin's peeking in the door right here and I don't know what she's doing, standing outside. But yeah, that is weird. I don't know what she's doing. I don't know why Robin's kids are not here at this party. So,
I tell you why, because Robin's probably trying to protect them.
Oh, geez.
And she uses that as an excuse. She tells her kids that they're going to be, that the other brothers and sisters don't like them, and it's a story that she feeds into her kids. And when those kids start to grow up and realize that their other brothers and sisters really did like them,
yeah,
that's going to backfire on her. And so
yeah, and you see that a lot, unfortunately. So my dad had, when I was growing up, we had 4 wives and 34 kids. My dad's had a total of 8 wives, and Corey's dad had a total of 9 wives and 27 kids. But they all lived in the same house. We lived in separate houses.
2 houses. We had one.
They lived right next door to each other. So
and then a smaller house right next door.
Yeah. Yeah, and so they're just hoping. So now Cody and Robin are going to I love Christine's realization right here when she says she's not the outsider, Cody and Robin are. Mm-hmm. Like, that is really super empowering, especially when you go into an event like this and you're just like so concerned about, obviously it's about the kids. It's not about you as the parents. It's not about you as the adults. It's about your children and their experiences. And so, but it's also super empowering to know that you're not. Okay, it says Lizzie Tish just got the #1 gift badger. I don't know what that means, but thank you. I don't know what that means. But yeah, I love the way Christine handles herself here. She is just trying to not cause a scene and make it about McKelty and make it about the babies and not about herself.
Yeah, they create a safe environment. I've watched Christine and those guys. They create a safe environment and an inclusive environment for the kids to come together, to enjoy each other, to celebrate things. As a kid growing up in polygamy, there were certain mothers that they would create something and we all wanted to go. That was a safe environment. That was an inclusive and loving environment where we got to hang out with our brothers and sisters. And then there were other mothers that would do a get together, and it really wasn't that inclusive. There were, you have people that are, they were at odds with each other. And so all of a sudden, people weren't welcome there, or it wasn't a inclusive environment, and so nobody hung out with those mothers in their areas because that wasn't a safe environment. Right. Christine, Janelle, they make these places a safe and inclusive environment, and Cody's at odds, and so he feels like an outsider, which he is. He is that outsider.
He is an outsider to his own kids. And how sad is that, to be an outsider to your own, your own children? And I love when Christine just said it would be disingenuous of her. And I feel like with Christine, what you see is what you get. I feel like with the majority of the wives, what you see is what you get. And maybe one of the wives is not so honest about who or what she is. So when Sister Rise very first came on, my dad was the advisor to them, and I talked to him a lot about it. And I said to him, if anyone could really show, like, polygamy is just a horrible way to live anyways, but if anyone could show, the Brown family could show it, because they are one of the best families that I ever knew. And so it's heartbreaking to see where they're at now, to see that the family has fallen apart, because they were not, the OG 3 wives, as everyone calls them, they worked so well together. Obviously, there was going to be upsets. Obviously, there was going to be jealousies or whatever, but they were still good. They always put the family first and the family unit first. And then you get someone who comes into the family who puts themselves first and their needs first and their children need first. And then this is what happens. So, so this is crazy. And okay. Oh my gosh. I just want to, he makes me want to lose my mind, because he says he's going through all these experiences where they're blaming him. I have yet to hear, the biggest complaint I hear on here is him blaming them.
Not letting they're not creating an environment for me to hang out with my kids. Dude, that's your job. Create your own environment. And
he can't pray anymore? Well, maybe that's a guilty conscience. I don't know. But that's ridiculous. And Robin's peeking her head in that door. That's so silly to me. Just either come in and own the space or don't. But I love how Christine just walks away right there. McKelty's doing a great job trying to get everybody together.
She's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, this is the part where Christine realizes it is more awkward for Cody and Robin than it is for her. Yeah, she doesn't want to see you, dude. She doesn't want to see Cody just as much as Cody doesn't want to see her. He's so bitter and angry about their divorce. And here's my 2 cents on that. It's because he felt better than her forever. He was better than her, and he lowered himself to marry her. I know that they portrayed on the show that her family was royalty. He was better than her, and he knew it. And so how dare her leave him? Because look what he did for her. He
and
lowered.
Go be happy.
I know, and go be happy.
She leaves and she's happy. That's.
Oh my God! And his comment just barely. They used to be singing my praises, and now they just loathe me. What do you expect? Oh my gosh, that comment right there just blew my mind. What do you expect? Of course they're going to loathe you when you choose one wife and one wife's children over everyone else. Oh, it drives me freaking nuts. And I can't imagine what they're saying. Okay, this is very common in the polygamous situation for men to not take any accountability for their part in it. Sorry, I know you're a man, but I don't know how my husband got so different than the rest of them, but they don't take accountability. They want to blame the wives. They're saying the wives are in the background talking negatively about them instead of owning what they're doing. Would you say that? Would you say you noticed that?
Well, I feel like that part of the problem, and I don't know what they did in their relationship, but all I'm relating it to is growing up in a polygamous family. And part of the problem is if one wife has a problem with another wife and the man is not going in and trying to, he definitely instigates some of that stuff, because if they're mad at each other, they're not mad at him.
Right. So he pits wives against wives,
against each
children
other.
against children.
And then when the wives realize that and become friends, then he's in trouble. And 3 of these wives have been putting up with that shit. I'm sorry. That and I could be wrong on this, but been putting up with that for so many years.
Right.
And they all realize that, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, well, we're done with this.
Right.
And now they are friends.
Right.
So, I mean, at least two of them are really
It makes
good
perfect
friends,
sense that Janelle and Christine would be friends. They
Yeah.
supported each other the entire marriage. Yeah, they might not have gotten along too well, because would you get along very well if somebody was sleeping with your partner? You know, and so there's that. Now that dynamic is not there, they're free to be friends and free to be.
Well, they raised children together.
Right.
They were the glue.
Right.
They were that common group where kids felt safe, kids felt nurtured. Those were the two that were rotating. They're the core of that family for the kids.
Right.
And so now that everything kind of broke apart, those two are still circling and worried about the kids, calling the kids, seeing how everything's going, creating. They still have that dynamic where the family still rotates around them, and Cody and Robin are left out. They're rotating, and they have their small little nucleus over there. And one day the kids are going to grow up and go, wait a minute, our brothers and sisters loved us too.
Right.
And
I just heard Robin say the most true thing I think I've ever heard Robin say, that she's been through a divorce, and so you never speak ill of the mother, which I completely agree. And that's probably the most truthful thing. Well, or their father, but she's married to Cody, so she's saying that. 90 sips of real tea. You got him to go live with you. I know it was a little tricky. I didn't think I was going to get him to come with me, but he actually went and put his. They wouldn't
let me wear my cool shirt.
He has a costume of a king's jacket. And he said, well, if I'm going to go represent polygamous men on a live show, then I should wear my king's jacket, because aren't polygamous men the king of their castle?
Yeah.
I wouldn't let him wear it. Made him take it off. But maybe one day he'll put it on. But he got that for a costume party that we had one time, and it was funny. Though his heart is breaking. Why? How is his heart breaking? I don't understand how Cody's heart's breaking. I'm sorry.
Cody has feelings too.
I know. And I want to support Cody and his feelings, but oh my gosh, it's hard to watch him when he disregards other people's feelings right and left. And his feelings really are the only ones that matter. So just a failure of the experience of polygamy. And his voice is shaking, and he's growing up and putting on his big boy pants. Yeah, he's got a little quiver in his voice. It looks like he might be crying. This dream of Camelot. I think the only one who blew up this dream of Camelot was who? Probably Cody. He pitted one too many wives against each other. And kids against each other. Okay, coming up is Mary and her friend Brandy. Oh my gosh, this conversation, I love this conversation. This is immediate. So somebody says, I don't believe Robin is going to refrain from speaking ill. She makes underhand comments often. Well, okay, so this is a very common personality trait for polygamists, for a lot of different polygamous women. So you're coming from a culture where you're supposed to love and support women, but everyone hates each other with a smile on their face.
The snarky comment.
It is. It's I want you to feel safe because she's not being very safe right now, and I want you to feel safe, so let's talk about it. Those are the types of comments that happen quite often. And then the kids are like, wait, the other mom's not being safe? I didn't know she wasn't safe. And then it puts doubt in their mind that the other wives don't have their best interest at mind. Does that make sense? And we watched this all the time. We watched it from a children's perspective. It was horrible. It was horrible to watch these wives go at each other like it. Somebody says, sounds like high school. It is. It is so hard because literally especially when you're a woman growing up in this lifestyle, you're literally pitted against all other women. It feels like you always have to be the best at everything you do.
And kids are resilient. They actually see the tension. They see the snarkiness. They see that stuff that's going on in the family, and they might believe it for a little bit. They might believe that narrative, but eventually, as the other wives are still sweet, still kind, they all of a sudden go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I've been being fed a line of BS.
Yeah.
And so you lose trust in a lot of things that the parents say, especially when they're trying to guilt, shame you into doing something or believing something about another wife or another person in the community.
I think that's what's so interesting to me, and that's where you can see where children love their parents. When parents are genuinely there because they love the child, and others are there because they shame and guilt the child into being there. Now, Janelle and Christine are moving Maddie. And they just genuinely love Maddie, so they want to be there to help Maddie. And this is very common for sister wives to stay friends. I know a lot of women who have divorced husbands and stayed friends.
I'm sorry, they're the core of the family.
Right.
So obviously they're still going to continue to be that strength within their family, that the kids all know that they can pick up the phone and ask for help or ask for advice.
Right.
And
I love how she just described them as being sister wives family. And then this just irks Corey. Sorry, Corey. My husband's name's Corey. This just irks Cody so bad that Janelle and Christine helped his daughter move. Why? Why would that be a problem for you? Because you feel like you got left out of it? She was always on eggshells around Janelle? Maybe because he was in the middle of it, causing drama between the two wives.
That's hearsay, though.
It is total hearsay. It's total in my assumption.
That's just experience of us growing up in the environment, and so we're assuming. So we're
watching him pit wife against wife.
Or, we're assuming that there is.
Yeah.
Because that's not on TV. You're just seeing the aftermaths of what's been going on.
So everybody should have a Brandy friend in their life. Mary's friend Brandy on here. I love the feedback that she gives Mary. I love the advice that she gives Mary. I love it when she says, I need to call Cody and talk and yell at him. I think that's amazing. Everyone should have a friend like her. Oh, I love that she came to just discuss like what she's going to do about this. So she says it's always weird getting. I wonder too.
Is that the yard that they used to
that was
live in?
That's their whole cul-de-sac.
Okay.
So that's one thing that I've never understood is why they moved from that cul-de-sac. It didn't make any sense to me. I mean, obviously there's the assumptions and rumors going around. And then Mary does say on here that she was going to seek a release. She did get a release. And I'm sure that'll come in on one of the later episodes that she was given a release. Oh, that's a funny story in and of itself. But we'll wait till we get to that episode before we share that story. Because, wow, Cody blew my mind on that one. And just the fact that Cody has, like, literally wanted nothing to do with her for so long. Oh, Mary's got some good friends. Jen, I've seen her a couple of times. I've met Jen in person 2, maybe 3 times. And she was just as funny in person, I guess, as she is on TV. Just very, very outgoing.
That's got to be one of the things that really hurt Cody's feelings, too, because he's got 3 wives that have left him that are so much funnier than him.
They are pretty funny.
So they take every one of his comments and flip it back on him, and I die laughing every time I see him do a little whip back, snap back at him.
That is one thing that you just, that's one thing that you, as polygamous wives, like, you respect your husband. Literally in the temple endowment that we go through, I went through. He never went through the temple endowment. I did go through the temple endowment. You make a covenant and a promise to never speak ill of your leaders, your priesthood leaders, so for a woman, that includes her husband. You did not talk negatively about your husband or there would be consequences for that. And so now to see these women come in here and actually start saying what they think, and that because they don't have that hanging over their heads anymore. They don't care at this point. But that is a huge part of your temple covenants, is to not speak ill of your leaders, or, that's the best way to say it, is priesthood leaders. And
I never made that covenant, so I can speak ill of whomever I want.
It says, are members of the church encouraged to socialize within the faith? Like, stay away from the outsiders? Absolutely. I actually did a podcast on this one. It's an us versus them mentality. Very much so. I never had friends growing up other than my friends inside the church. It wasn't until I got into my mid-20s that I started having friends outside of the church. You're very much encouraged to stay for a lot of different reasons. One of the biggest reasons is just, why would you want to hang out with people who that don't have the same value system that you have?
And I grew up on a compound, so everybody on that compound was part of the church. So those were all my friends. It wasn't till I got much older, 17, when I started working outside of the compound, that I started making friends everywhere else. So,
right.
Yep, I grew up on the compound. All of my friends were other kids within the faith. So,
same compound that Robin grew up on.
Yeah, I was friends with one of her older brothers. So, what am I? I'm like 6 or 7 years older than her. So she was more friends with some of my.
Okay, and that was one of my
sisters.
favorite comments when Mary said, what? Because we started this when she was 10. Oh my gosh, that happens so much. 12. So here is a comment that, how horrible is this when Cody's asked about Maddie and he says, I won't talk about Maddie. How does he think Maddie's going to feel when she sees that? When her dad refuses to even acknowledge anything about her on TV. He acknowledges everything else, but he won't even acknowledge his own daughter. And unfortunately, I do see this a lot. I've experienced it myself. When I decided to go public, I experienced it a lot with my dad, not wanting to. He's disconnected from all social media from me because of, he's just trying to protect himself. So, and
it's really cool. All you have to say is like, I love her with all of my heart, and I'm working to try to make things better with her because I love that girl. Mm-hmm. Holy crap.
That's all he would have had to say about Maddie. Yeah, he could have just said how much he loved and adored her, and it would have been a totally different experience for her. Oh, yeah. And the children should never have to go to the parent. I don't care if you're in a polygamous situation or not. It is always the responsibility of the parent to maintain a relationship with a child. It is never the child's responsibility. It is always. I love that Janelle says that Flagstaff is no longer permanent for her, that she would take another option. She absolutely should. She absolutely should get out of that. Such a toxic. Here he comes talking about his FOMO. He's missing out on FOMO. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is where I have to be careful on the lives because my real thoughts could come out very easily. I'm trying to be as honest as I can without being mean. Because that FOMO thing just makes, it just lights me up. Because they literally think the whole world revolves around them. And you should not have a life outside of their presence. And so that's super frustrating.
And yet, what is he doing to put together an environment where his kids feel welcome and want to come hang out and do some fun things with him? You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
Where they feel safe to come and do that.
It's crazy to me that he has FOMO. What does he think his wives have when he takes off on an 11-day honeymoon? Do you think they have FOMO? What does he think that his other children have when he's taking one child to go get her ears pierced? Do you think the other girls have FOMO? Oh my God. Oh. So Cody and Mary got married a year before I did. And we were friends. before I did, not before we did.
Way.
I was married once before, and and Mary and I were friends. So she just said they were going to celebrate so this year they would be 34 years married, and I got married 8 days into 17. And so, yeah, that was been 32 years ago. Somebody says he didn't mind missing surgery, but had to be there for an ear piercing. I know. Is that literally not the most insane thing that you have ever heard? So, that makes no sense to me. Oh, here's the scene where my parents are in. So Cody and Mary are at a church house. That almost looks like me in the background right there too, which is crazy. They're dancing, and it's at our church building that we grew up in. Well, the one I grew up in, because he grew up in Montana. But right there, I'm 99% sure that's my mom and dad. They have their faces blurred out, but it looks exactly like my mom. And so I remember their wedding, going to their wedding.
You didn't even show it to them so that people can spy in and see.
People, I'm sure, will watch.
The blurred out faces.
Yeah. And for Cody to say he never was in love with Mary is such a load of crap. I was there when they were dating. I saw how much he was in love with her. It was ridiculous. Mary was adorable as a teenager. She was very cute, very spunky, had a very fun personality. Cody did too. And he was absolutely in love with her. Oh. And he does. Now Mary's saying he tells himself these things to justify it. And this is very true. In a polygamous relationship, the man really can't leave. Why would he want to leave? He just isolates the wife and ignores her and abandons her. So,
yeah, you've got yourself, you don't ask for a divorce from your wife. That's humiliating. So you want to have all of these wives and show you've got a huge family,
right,
so that you can qualify for more wives. And if you've got wives that are going, this guy's a piece, then...
And you don't even have to... All your wives don't even have to agree for you to get another wife. Just one of them has to agree. And then you can go get another wife, and it won't even matter, because they should. They should all have to agree, but they don't have to agree. The church will marry them regardless of whether you agree with it or not. Somebody says, even in the early episodes, you can see the love. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. He was absolutely in love with her. I mean, I watched their courtship. They were absolutely in love.
But it's easy to say, well, I never was, especially when they've spurred him, when they, okay, dude, I'm done with you. Oh, I was never in love with you anyhow.
It's such an ego thing.
Yeah.
It is. It's such an ego thing. Like, I didn't care enough anyway, so it doesn't even matter. So you just do whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never loved you anyhow.
And I don't know how many of you feel this way. I'm getting so tired of the Robin. I don't understand. She just barely said, I feel like I'm living in an alternate universe. I don't understand where this universe... Really? You don't understand the universe that you kind of created? Like, you kind of helped based on editing of the TV show. That's what I'm seeing. So, and unfortunately, when you get a wife who comes in as the queen wife and they cause all this chaos, they do stand back and say, I don't understand what's happening. That is very typical. I've seen that so many times. My dad had a couple of wives that fall right into that same category, but she doesn't want to be understood. Yeah, she doesn't want to understand. Exactly. Once you understand, maybe you have to take some accountability for what you're saying and doing.
The interesting thing, and I feel like this is where the kids are all looking at this, looking at the show, looking at what's going on. But it is interesting what he chooses that is important. And he'll set one child or one mother's children aside because that's not important right now. And he has made, probably to keep Robin happy, he's made Robin's family, Robin's kids, the most important in his life.
Yeah.
And alienated the rest of the kids. And the kids try to come together and say, hey, we keep that group. They're all growing into adults now, and they still want to keep that camaraderie and of hanging out together as kids. And so because the parents aren't quite doing it, so they're calling in trying to get hey, we're going to do a gift exchange, and then somebody gets in the middle of it and tries to alienate their kids again. So,
and we're
it's
both the
frustrating
oldest of
to
our
watch.
families. So his mom's a second wife. My mom was a second wife. We're both the firstborn children into polygamy in our families. And so a lot of stuff centers around our home. And we have a lot of people come into our home. Whenever we do parties, we do them here. We do really try to keep that camaraderie with our siblings because of that exact reason. Somebody just said weaponized ignorance. I totally agree. That is a great way to explain it. It is weaponized ignorance. And also somebody says, your hubby could be the lead singer of Metallica. Oh, one of his favorite groups. Now his head will get so, you want to see a blown up ego. There you go. And somebody says, I don't think Robin or Cody want to understand. Exactly. I totally agree. I don't think they want to either, because again, they would have to be accountable for what they're doing. It says, are men allowed to leave the wives or initiate a divorce? Cody makes it seem like he has been trapped.
They don't want to.
They
don't want to. That's humiliating to them. It's a humiliation that you weren't a good enough husband or leader of your family group, and it'll look bad if you're going in and whining about a wife. I don't want her around anymore. Get rid of her. Trade her out. It's a humiliation.
It makes you look like you're not capable of running your family the correct way. And so if you're not capable of running your family, then your wives are going to leave you. And so it just makes you look, what's the word that I'm thinking of? Yeah, you're just not capable. Makes you look incapable. And so that's one of the reasons why the men won't leave. What they'll do is they'll just ignore the women, or they just won't go to their houses.
You
they won't
alienate them for 10 years or more. You alienate them, and then you piss and moan that they left you.
On national television. What the hell?
Well, you treat them like that for a long enough time, and they leave, and so maybe you don't want to piss and moan anymore about it, dude.
Right. Maybe just own it. So someone else says, remember on Christmas when he said he cared about the people with him at Robin's house? Mind blown. Literally the comments that this man makes on national television, knowing full well that his family will see things, blows my mind. Mm-hmm. It is literally some of the most ignorant things I have ever seen.
About his children too. You have to, if a kid says something frustrated about you, take it like a man and just tell that kid you love them and nurture them. But to sit there and slap back and say things negatively about your kids,
that's been our number one. That's been our number one disgust with the show, is the way that he talks about his children, well above anything he does to his wives, which is pretty egregious in and of itself. But the way that he talks about his children is our number one upset. And that's the one that breaks both of our hearts the very most, because
it's in history.
We are those children. Mm-hmm. We're the ones who have had those things said about us. My dad has said some horrendous things about me and in public. And I have been doing my podcast lately too, and telling my experience. So yeah, it is. What he does to his wives, those women chose to live this way. They're accountable just as much as he is. Those children did not, and they are victims of these circumstances. So this one says, do you talk to your dad still? I do. He disconnected from all social media from me just because he doesn't want to be easily spotted or found. But yeah, I do still talk to him, not like I used to, and not necessarily because of going public either. There's other reasons in the background of why I don't speak to him as often anymore, but yes, I still do. I'm my mother's oldest child. I'm one of the oldest children that he has. And so there's just a lot that happens around that. And so, yeah, I still do talk to him. And then Corey's dad has passed. So,
yeah, my mother had 6 boys and then 1 little girl. So she had 7 children. I'm the oldest of hers. But my dad had 27 biological children, and then raised quite a few more. I think we had 35 kids all running around the same house growing up.
Yeah.
It's hectic.
They live
quiet in our house right
They lived
now.
in chaos. And then I had 34. There's 34 kids, so 33 brothers and sisters that I grew up with. And then my dad married other women along the way that had children that we don't always consider siblings just because we didn't grow up with them and we didn't see them. And their moms married married my dad after the fact. And so, 34 of us. And we were always in like groups. So for my age, there was 2 other girls that were my same age. So you tend to have twins or triplets. So when they talk about that in Sister Wives, that they have a lot of set of twins, because Mary had one, or Janelle had one at the same time Christine had. Very, very common. So that happened with us too. I always had, every kid tend to have a twin or a sibling. Sarah says, were you raised in the same household or in separate houses? So I was raised for the majority of my life in separate houses. And then Corey was raised in the same house.
So it was a pretty large house. It had 3 stories. My mom and her kids were in the basement for most of my life. Other wives were down there with us, but it was one huge house, and then there was a small cabin next door. And so there were 2 wives in the cabin and 7 wives and all their kids in the main house. So he had a total of 9 wives, so 10 adults and 35 of us running around.
Not tell him that all the time. That's the only reason that he survived polygamy and came out as good as he had, because he had to have a sense of humor, or he would have lost his ever-living mind living with that many women and that many kids. So it says, as a child, I would assume that you would have loved that. What do you think? I did. Like we had, some of my best friends to this day are my siblings. And so most of everything that we do with our siblings, even to this day. Parties are typically all of our, so when you see McKelty's sprinkle party, those are mostly her siblings, aunts and uncles. That's exactly how our parties are too. We very seldom have any people that aren't immediately related to us at our parties. So
yeah, I grew up with some of the best friends like a guy could ever have. So I've got lots of brothers, lots of sisters.
Yeah.
And they are still to this day some of my best friends. My brothers.
Yeah.
I've got other friends that I grew up with too.
I don't know what some of these things are sorry, this is our very first live, so we don't know what some of these things are that are coming off. Something came off about a universe or something. I don't know what that means. But yeah, something popped off on the screen.
Whatever that universe is.
Yeah, sorry, we're still learning this thing. Yeah. We just literally we started watching this and I said, let's just do it. Let's just go live, because there's too many thoughts that are going through our brain. It's a gift. Yeah, I still got to figure out what all those things are. Thank you for the gift. Yeah. I don't know what that's an expensive gift. Oh. Aww. Well, that's very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and made me feel I get a vein in my forehead when I get a little nervous. So thank you. I appreciate that. So Cody just barely said on here, we have this playing in the background as we're talking, and it's kind of giving us ideas of what to talk about. But we just figured it'd be better to just do a live, because so many mind-blowing things are happening. So Cody says, so Mary's talking about if she didn't consider herself married, she could just go away. So she did go to the leadership of the church and she did ask for a divorce, and they did grant her one. So a release. Yeah, it's called a release. And she says, I was upset with how I was treated. I was upset with the last 10 or 12 years. Absolutely. She should be. His lack of communication about how he really felt. Absolutely. He basically put her out to pasture and just ignored her. And now they're talking, now they've done a flashback to season 2010.
And you see all the kids just loving on each other and hanging out. And they used to have these cool get-togethers, and I can see in some of the things they're doing, the kids loved that growing up, and they're trying to create it again.
Yeah. Like McKelty having Thanksgivings at her house. I love that she's trying to keep those family traditions. But when Cody says, yeah, they all were able to get out, I wasn't able to get out. Yeah, you could have. He absolutely could have. He absolutely could have gone to the leadership of the church and said,
I just want one wife. I'm out of here.
I'm out of here. He could have done that, but he didn't man up enough to do that because he didn't want to be known as less than capable of handling his family.
His ego would not allow him to do that.
Right.
Do you know if Janelle has also asked?
I don't know if Janelle's asked for a release. She didn't feel like she needed one. When I left my first husband, I did not legally marry him, and I had to get a release from the priesthood or from the leadership of the AUB, and they didn't want to give me one, even though I was leaving for adulterous reasons for my ex-husband. They didn't want to give me one because it's a good old boys club to some degree too. It doesn't always necessarily matter if you are following all the rules. And so it took me a long time to be able to get a release, 18 months. And then I started dating this guy who was from the same group. And he said, it's time for you to make sure that you get that release or your dad's never going to accept me as a new husband. So that's the only reason that I actually went in. So I understand where Janelle and Christine are coming from. It doesn't matter. Just walk away. You don't believe in that anymore anyway. So just go away. It's less of a headache. You don't have to deal with it anymore. But honestly, I was kind of surprised that Mary went and got the release, and she did get a release. They did give it to her. But the one day that he finally told me, you have to do this or your dad will never accept me, is when I went in and got it.
Yeah. It's again, so much of their belief systems are based around ego. And so if they sat around and said, hey, you guys are married for time and all eternity, and it's what we say here is up there, then it is an ego thump to go back and say, well, this isn't working out. Can you unrelease us for eternity?
Right.
So
I know you bound us together for eternity, but now can you unbind us for eternity? Okay, a couple of questions went through here. Let me see if I can go back. Did you guys ever feel the tension among the adults as a child? I doubt I would have ever noticed. Oh my gosh. Okay, there's a million stories. We can't go into all of those right now because this live's already getting really long. There's a million stories. He's got a couple that involve weapons between the wives.
Angry wives.
Angry wives, absolutely. And unfortunately, when they're, food fights between the wives, throwing stuff at each other. Oh yeah. We're going to have some fun lives. So if you enjoy this live, please come back because we're going to probably do this every week. But yeah, and unfortunately as a child, if a wife was upset with your mother, typically they tended to take it out on you as children. So that's the one hard thing.
You just would avoid that section of the home or that area when there was frustrations between the wives. There were some times where everything was cool. There were some wives that were so welcoming. I was raised with older wives that we kind of considered grandmothers, that if you were hurt, if you had something going on, if you got injured, you could go to those wives and they would nurture you. They are grandmother type mothers that would nurture you and help you. And then there were other wives that it wasn't so comfortable, and that didn't happen all the time, but there were hey, you know what, you're not necessarily welcome in this area of the home because it's uncomfortable, or you'd get yelled at or whatever it was. And then there were some times that you were welcome when there was peace again within the home. So
right. And Bob says, Mary called it. She said he would push her to leave, so he's not the bad guy. That is 99% of all divorces that happen. That's what happens.
Just pure abandonment.
Yeah.
The guy just quit showing up.
He's not man enough to own what it is that he doesn't want to be in the relationship anymore, so he just abandons her.
And yet when you ask him, hey, how many wives do you have going up into heaven, they'll still claim them. They'll still say, oh, yes, I've still got 9 wives. 3 of them left, but I got 9 wives.
Kiana Watson's giving us all these gifts. Thanks, Kiana.
You're amazing, Key.
So my dad's name is Dave Watson. He is, like I said, the leader of the Apostolic United Brethren right now. So Kiana Watson is a granddaughter. So thank you, Key. We love you. It says, if you get a release, are you still connected to your celestial life? I'm not really sure what you mean by that, because a celestial life is something that I feel like you're always connected to. Oh, hold on. It says verify to continue our live. Oh my gosh, how long have we been going? Okay, but you're not bound to that person forever. So maybe if that answers the question, you're not tied to that person as a partner forever and ever, but you can still make it to the celestial kingdom. Unless you're a woman, then you need to be sealed to a worthy man. But if you are not a woman and you're a worthy man, then yes, absolutely, you can still obtain celestial life. Okay, and then somebody says, Sarah, thanks, Sarah. She says, and that last question was from Abby. Sarah says, I got to say, this is such a fascinating topic. I really appreciate you guys going into details. I know this is our first live. And so there's part of me that's like, how much do we say publicly? Because when we're watching this show, we're both like at points yelling at the TV. Like, what
I'm
in the
laughing.
hell are these guys talking about? And then you see a lot of the little eye contacts and you're like, that's going to be a fight later. That's going to be like, and so we do see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that happens in these shows.
The little stabs, the little slivers at each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of stabs that they do to each other, and it's so sad. Somebody says, Kiana says, love the live. I can't wait for the next one. Thanks, love. So Bob says, tap, we are almost at 10K. I don't know what, okay, Dawn sent a TikTok universe. Oh, thank you, Dawn.
Thanks, Dawn.
I'm sorry, we are going to learn what this means.
Yeah,
This
we'll
is
get
just
better
our
at
first
this.
live. We've never done this, so I appreciate it. It says, great job. Let's go for the 12K. It's the first live. Okay. Do you get like certain things if you hit certain levels of likes? I don't know. So we're total rookies.
12K.
We're still learning Facebook. See, look, I got to figure out the right app. We're still learning TikTok. And so now we're at the part we get too bad. Likes put you in the For You page. Oh, nice.
Oh,
okay. That's awesome. Thanks, Bob. So yeah, this live has gone on for quite a while. We could sit and talk
almost done
about this
with it.
all day. We're almost done with this. So I agree with Mary right here. She's talking about her relationship with Cody was 32 years long. And I agree that there is likes protect your live. Oh, and boost your ratings. Oh, thank you. Well, that's good to know because I didn't understand that. There's a point here that I do want to make because when we watched this last night, it was insane to me when Christine says, I hope Mary and Janelle get their portion of the land, but she knows Cody and she knows that they probably won't. That is so typical. This is another reason when you're not married to women legally, thank God these women had their name on the deeds of Coyote Pass at least.
Yeah.
But this is such a typical, maybe it's not just polygamous. This is just what we can speak about because this is where we were born and raised. It's such a typical polygamous man thing to hide all your assets, to lie about your assets so that you never have to share those with anyone else in your family.
Especially if a wife is disobedient or leaves, then they made a covenant forever. And that's where it's interesting to me is he's like weeping at Robin of, we made this sacred covenant.
I
Well,
know.
he made that sacred covenant to the other 3 wives also.
Right.
We made this sacred covenant.
I
Well,
know.
he made that sacred covenant to the other 3 wives also.
Right.
And I'm not interested in telling you the truth.
Yeah.
And even later on, because his ego won't allow him to tell the truth, he gets all butt wounded that they left, and he's like, I never loved him anyhow. So,
Right.
It's the second time.
Yeah. So what did I do wrong? He says. Okay. So my husband has to take a step out.
I have to make it too.
So he says, what did I do wrong? Oh my gosh, I could list a million things. And then he says, teenage drama. Are you kidding, dude? You're the one who created this teenage drama. So I love this for these women that they have gone their separate ways. And then we're at the end where Robin's sitting on the bench by herself, wanted to do the sister wife thing. So I know some of Robin's family, and this is one of the reasons I've been a little bit hesitant to speak out, because I love them. They're good people, and it's been a little bit tricky to navigate talking about some of this stuff when we know these people personally. And so, if you're going to do lives, get a moderator to help you encourage, okay, yeah, that's awesome. Let's see, that's what I've been trying to do. You're doing great. We're at 12.2. Where do I even see those likes? Isn't this so bad that this is how new that we are? I appreciate that. And I love that I got my husband to come on here with me. I've been wanting him to do a couple podcasts with me too. Okay, so we're at the end, and it says Janelle's going to have a conversation with Cody and call it a day. So, and now they're doing the previews for next week. I love that Mary just says to him, it's bullshit. You should have been honest with me more. So blame yourself if I don't love you. What? Oh my gosh. Could you be any less accountable about anything? So, all right. That is the end of that episode. And
thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for the live and for the support. Lizzie Tish, you were amazing. Bob's wife, you were amazing. Kiana, you guys were all amazing. And I apologize. We're going to get better at reading these screens so that we understand.
And whoever
what's
said
happening.
I look like Metallica guy, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
We were not allowed to watch that when we were young. We weren't allowed to listen to that kind of music or watch that kind of stuff. So I'm
Even
very
though we
unfamiliar with it. He's not so much. He was more of a rebel than I was. But I think we're going to do these lives every week because there's just too much that goes on in both of our brains as we're watching this. We're just like, what is happening on national television?
I'll wear my King's coat next time.
No, he won't. Maybe one day we'll let him do it. But thank you for everyone who sat and watched this with us. We'll have to teach you to add moderators. I will learn that for next week so that we make sure that we do this. And we might go live again a couple more times before next week just so that we can get familiar with it. Mm-hmm. It's good to get big fast. You guys are really good and good looking. Oh, well, thank you. Appreciate it. I think he makes me look better than I actually am. So we will probably go live at least one more time this week so that we can get more familiar with it. And then we'll definitely be going live every single week. So.
Oh, is that what they're talking about?
Oh, yeah. The likes up there in the corner. I feel like boomer. I feel like I'm a boomer. I don't know anything. Can't wait for the next one. All right. Well, we are done. Thank you guys so much. I don't even know how to end the live. So there we go. I think it's this button right here. Thank you guys.
Yeah. Thanks guys.